Distinction between nation and state. The nation and state both are different concepts. Despite similarities, they have differences. So in this presentation I am going to analyze the differences between nation and state. Nation is a community of race, language and religion. It means that nation is related to identity, it is related to culture, it is related to the unity of people. But at the same time, state is an organized political community under a unified political system. State must have a political system like government, territory, some institution, some organization like military forces, police forces. But community it runs automatically with culture, religion, and different types of social practices. Second differences between nation and state is for a nation to exist, for a nation to live, there is no necessity of sovereignty. It means that sovereignty is not necessary to be a nation. We can take lots of example where in the absence of sovereignty also there was nation. Let's take example. Uh, After its establishment in 1948, the Israel there was no Israel as a state, but Israel was there as a nation. Israelis were scattered in European countries like Germany, Poland. That is why sovereign is not required to be the nation. In order to be a nation, there is no necessity of sovereignty. Nation exists in the absence of sovereignty also. But state, there is necessity of sovereignty to be a state. When there is the death of sovereignty, the state dies. That is why state provides oxygen. That is why sovereignty provides oxygen to the state. So sovereignty is necessary to be a state, and it is also the mandatory elements is declared by Montevideo Convention. It is one of the elements of a state, but that is not required for the nation. Third one is people are emotionally and psychologically organized in nation. They have emotional unity, they have cultural unity, they have psychological unity. That is why emotion and psychological matters a lot for the nation. Then for the state there is no necessity of emotional and psychological organization, but they are legally connected. Legal connection is necessary, formal connection is necessary, but for nation there is emotional and psychological unity. Nation doesn't have any border structure. It can surpass the border, it can pass the border, it can go across the border. But for a state must have border structure for its existence. It must have border, it must have geography, it must have territory, but that is not required for the nation. It can cross the borderline. That the same example of Israelis can be taken, where there was no Israel before 1948, but the emotional unity was there. The territory was not there, but Israelis were there. Their psychological unity was there. Their festivals, their practices, social practices, everything was there. That is why nation doesn't have any borderline. It can cross the border also. In nation there is the absence of state authority, and like president, vice president, such types of formal mechanism is not necessary for the nation. But for the state there is a strong presence of state authority and government. Different types of institutional, legal and functional practices are necessary for the state to exist. And nation is the abstract organization. Nation is the abstract organization. Nation, why nation is abstract organization is that nation okay, nation is an abstract organization, but the state is physical and concrete organization which can be seen, which can be observed, but nation is the matter of emotion and which cannot be observed. It has to be felt.